The rain fell hard that night. Cold, relentless, like the world was trying to wash me away. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Every sound behind me could have been him, Ryan. The man who once swore to love me, now screaming my name like a threat. My heels slipped on the wet pavement as I ran, clutching the small bag I'd packed in secret. Just enough money to disappear. My breath came in ragged gasps, my lungs burning, my heart pounding so loud it drowned the thunder. I turned a corner into an alley, dark, empty, the kind of place bad decisions are made. But bad decisions had already gotten me here. For a second, I thought I'd lost him. Then headlights flashed at the end of the street.
No. Please, no.
That's when it happened. A black car, sleek, expensive, slowed beside me. The tinted window rolled down, revealing a man I'd never seen before. His voice cut through the rain like a blade. Get in. I froze. Every instinct screamed, not to. But something in his tone wasn't a request. It was a command wrapped in calm certainty. You don't want to be out here, he said. Not with him coming. My fingers trembled around the door handle. I hesitated. Then another flash of headlights behind me, closer this time, made my choice for me. I opened the door and slid inside. The door clicked shut. The noise of the storm vanished, replaced by the low hum of the engine and the scent of leather and smoke. I shivered, clutching my arms as the stranger's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. Dark, unreadable, but steady. You can call me Dante, he said finally. I didn't respond. I didn't trust my voice. He glanced at me once more, then spoke quietly into the phone, his tone sharp, efficient, like a man used to being obeyed. Clean her out. No tails. No tails? My chest tightened.
Who was this man?
I turned to look out the window. The city blurred past, lights streaking through the rain. For the first time in years, I wasn't sure if I was running from danger or straight into it. You don't need to be afraid, Dante said without looking at me. You're safe now. Safe. The word didn't sound real anymore. I studied him. The strength in his jaw, the quiet control in his voice. He wasn't like Ryan. He didn't shout or threaten. He didn't need to. Power seemed to radiate from him, quiet but absolute. Why are you helping me? I whispered. He met my gaze, steady, unblinking. Because I don't like men who hurt women.
That was all he said.
No explanation. No demand.
Just that.
Outside, the rain kept falling, washing away the last traces of the life I'd left behind. Inside, beside this dangerous stranger, a different kind of storm began, one I couldn't see coming. And somewhere deep inside me, I felt it, the quiet, terrifying realization that I might have just traded one kind of danger for another. The car slowed after what felt like an eternity of silence. We left the city behind, trading skyscrapers for long stretches of empty road and the kind of quiet that makes you realize how loud your fear has been. Dante hadn't said another word. His attention was fixed ahead, one hand resting loosely on the wheel, the other tapping a slow rhythm against his thigh. Everything about him radiated control, the kind of control that doesn't need to prove itself. When the car finally stopped, I looked up to see a wrought iron gate opening before us, revealing a long driveway lined with cypress trees and lights glowing faintly through the mist. A house, no, a mansion, stood at the end, shadowed but imposing. You'll stay here tonight, Dante said quietly. I hesitated. Here? With you? His lips curved, not a smile exactly, but something close. Not with me. In the guest wing. You need rest. I opened my mouth to argue, to ask who he really was, but the words died when I saw the man waiting by the front door. Broad shoulders, black suit, an earpiece glinting under the porch light. He gave Dante a small nod as we approached. This wasn't just wealth. It was something else.
Power.
Structure. Command. And somehow I'd stumbled right into the middle of it. Inside, the house was warm, the faint scent of wood and expensive cologne lingering in the air. The floors gleamed, every surface immaculate, like a place where chaos wasn't allowed to exist. "Sophia will show you to your room," Dante said, gesturing to a woman who appeared from a side hallway, elegant, composed, eyes sharp but kind. "Right this way, miss," she said softly. Before I followed, I looked back at Dante. He stood in the foyer, jacket removed, tie loosened, watching me with an expression I couldn't read, protective but distant. "You're safe here," he said again. And for some reason, this time, I almost believed him. My room was beautiful, too beautiful for someone who'd been sleeping in cheap motels and hiding behind locked doors. The bed looked untouched, the linens white and crisp, a glass of water waiting by the nightstand. When Sophia left, I sat on the edge of the bed, still trembling. My body wanted to collapse, but my mind wouldn't stop spinning. Who was Dante? Why help a stranger in the rain? And why did his name sound like both salvation and warning? I stared at the window for a long time, until exhaustion finally dragged me under. Underscore 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 underscore. I woke to the smell of coffee. The morning light spilled across the room, soft and golden. For a moment, I forgot where I was, until I saw Dante standing by the door, holding 2 cups. "You were dreaming," he said simply, his voice low. "You called out." My throat tightened. "Sorry." He handed me one of the cups. "Don't apologize for surviving." I looked at him, really looked this time. The dark suit replaced by a simple black shirt, sleeves rolled up, revealing a tattoo winding around his forearm. His eyes were calm, steady, the kind that made you want to tell the truth even when you shouldn't. "You didn't ask where you are," he said. "I assumed you'd tell me when you wanted me to know." That earned me the faintest trace of a smirk. Smart. He sat across from me, his presence filling the room even in silence. "This house isn't on any map," he said. "No one can find you here. Not him. Not anyone." "Ryan," the name came out like poison. "He won't touch you again," Dante said, his voice dropping an octave. "Men like that, they understand one thing. Fear. And I'm very good at giving it." Something in the way he said it made my skin prickle. There was no bluff in his tone. No cruelty either. Just certainty. Quiet, terrifying certainty. "Why me?" I whispered. His gaze met mine, steady as stone. "Because I could see in your eyes you'd already saved yourself. You just needed someone to finish what you started." I didn't know what to say. For the first time in years, someone had looked at me, really looked, and didn't see weakness. Dante rose, setting his cup down.
"Rest. Eat.
Then we'll talk." When the door closed behind him, I sat there holding the still warm coffee cup, my pulse racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Who was this man? And why, when he said I was safe, did my heart start to believe him? Even when my mind whispered that I should run. I thought peace would feel different. But in Dante's house, peace came with silence, thick, deliberate, like the calm before a storm that refuses to leave the horizon. It had been 2 days since he brought me here. 2 days of quiet meals, polite conversations with Sophia, and glimpses of Dante coming and going at impossible hours. Always composed. Always unreadable. But that morning, something changed. I was standing by the window, coffee in hand, when I saw 2 black SUVs pull through the gate. Not unusual here, except this time, Dante was waiting for them outside. His posture was rigid, one hand in his pocket, the other gesturing sharply as 3 men stepped out, suits, dark glasses, all business. I couldn't hear them, but I didn't need to. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension. A moment later, One of the men flinched. Just slightly. And Dante's expression shifted.
Cold.
Controlled. Dangerous. Then he said something, low and quiet, and whatever it was, it sent the men back into their cars without another word. They left as quickly as they'd come. When he came back inside, I was still standing there, pretending to admire the garden. "Everything all right?" I asked softly. He paused, eyes flicking to mine. "Yes," he said finally. "Handled." Handled. That word again. It followed him like a shadow. "You didn't have to hide," he added, his tone softening. "You're safe here." I wasn't hiding. I lied. He smiled faintly. "Good. Because you can't hide from what's already watching." I froze. "What do you mean?" He took a step closer, voice dropping low. "Your ex, Ryan, isn't done. He's looking for you. He's sent someone asking questions." My stomach dropped. "Here." "Not here," Dante said. "But close enough." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone, sliding it across the table. "That's his latest call log. He hired someone. A private investigator with bad taste in allies." I looked down, my breath catching. Ryan's name stared back at me, along with an address, my old apartment. "How do you even have this?" I whispered. Dante's jaw tightened. "Because I make it my business to know who's coming for what's mine." My pulse skipped. What's mine? There was something possessive in the way he said it, something that should have scared me. But it didn't. It just made me feel seen. "I don't want him hurt," I said finally. His gaze darkened, unreadable. "Then hope he stays away. Because if he doesn't," he stopped himself, stepping closer until the air between us turned electric. "If he doesn't," he said quietly, "I won't give him a second warning." The words hung between us like a promise and a threat all at once. I wanted to say something, anything, but he reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from my face, his touch unexpectedly gentle. "I'm not asking you to understand my world," he murmured. "Just to trust that you're safe in it." And for some reason I did. But that night, lying awake in the vast quiet of the mansion, I couldn't stop hearing his voice. "You can't hide from what's already watching." Because somewhere out there Ryan was watching. And somehow, I knew this was only the beginning. The next morning felt wrong. The air was heavier, like the house itself knew something I didn't. Sophia avoided my eyes during breakfast, her usual calm replaced by quiet nervousness. Marco, who normally nodded politely when I passed, stood closer than usual, watchful, alert. And Dante was nowhere to be seen. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe he'd gone out early for business. Maybe I was overthinking. But when I stepped out onto the terrace with my coffee, I saw it. The black car, parked just beyond the gates. At first, it looked ordinary, tinted windows, engine idling. But something in the stillness of it made my stomach twist. It wasn't moving. It was watching. "Marco," I called, trying to sound calm. He appeared almost instantly. "Go back inside, Signora." The way he said it, clipped, urgent, made my pulse spike. "Who is it?" He didn't answer, just pressed a hand to his earpiece. "She's outside. Tell the boss." And that's when I knew. Whoever was in that car, it wasn't random. Before I could argue, a second car appeared, Dante's. It pulled up behind the black sedan with a speed that made gravel fly. The door opened, and he stepped out, composed, dangerous, wearing that expression that made everyone around him stop breathing. He didn't even look at me. His eyes were fixed on the car ahead. I couldn't hear what he said, but the man inside must have, because the door opened slowly, and a figure stepped out. Ryan. My heart stopped. He looked thinner, harder, eyes burning with the same fury I'd seen the night I ran. "Emma," he said, his voice hoarse. "You can't hide from me forever." Dante moved between us instantly. "She's not hiding," he said, voice cold as ice. "She's protected." Ryan laughed, sharp, bitter. "Protected? By you? You think I don't know who you are? You're a criminal." Dante didn't blink. And yet, I'm the only reason you're still breathing. Ryan's expression faltered for a fraction of a second. You think you can scare me? Dante took a single step forward. No, he said softly. I think I can end you. Marco shifted beside him, a silent warning that this wasn't just talk. Dante, I said quietly, my voice shaking. He looked at me then, eyes softening just slightly. Go inside, Emma. I wanted to argue, to beg him not to do something he couldn't undo, but something in his tone stopped me. Ryan took a step toward me, and Dante's hand went to his side, slow, deliberate. Ryan froze. Last warning, Dante said. You don't come near her again. You don't call. You don't look for her. Because next time, I won't be this polite. Ryan's jaw tightened, but when Dante's men stepped forward, he retreated, muttering curses under his breath before climbing back into his car and driving off. The silence that followed was suffocating. When Dante finally turned to me, his mask of control slipped just enough for me to see the storm underneath. You see, he said quietly, this is why I do what I do. Why I am what I am. He would have found you anywhere, Emma. But now he'll think twice. I should have been terrified by what he'd just done, by what he was capable of. But all I felt was relief. He had faced my past for me, and for the first time in years, I wasn't running. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared, but because I finally understood what it meant to be his. Safety in exchange for innocence. Peace in exchange for control. And somehow it felt worth it. That night, the house was too quiet. Even with the guards outside, the reinforced gates, and the distant hum of engines, silence. Wrapped around me like a second skin, heavy, waiting. Dante hadn't spoken to me since Ryan left. He'd gone straight to his office, shutting the door with a finality that made my chest ache. I told myself he just needed time. That men like him processed anger differently. But as the hours passed, my worry twisted into something else. Fear, not of him, but for him. When I finally gathered the courage to go downstairs, the light beneath his office door was still on. I paused for a moment, then knocked softly. Come in. His voice was calm, but it carried that edge, the one that came when he was barely holding something back. He was standing by the window when I entered, still in his dark shirt, sleeves rolled up, tie loose around his neck. There was a drink in his hand, untouched. His reflection in the glass looked haunted. Dante, he didn't turn immediately. You shouldn't have come down.
Why?
Because I might see you being human? That made him look at me, sharp, conflicted, beautiful. You shouldn't have had to see that today, Emma. That part of my world. I took a slow step toward him. You didn't do anything wrong.
You protected me.
He set the glass down with a quiet clink. That's exactly the problem. Protection, for me, always comes with destruction. I wanted to keep you away from that. I stopped in front of him, close enough to feel the heat radiating off his body. You can't protect me by shutting me out.
His jaw tightened.
You don't understand what it means to be with someone like me. Then make me understand, I said softly. Because I'm not leaving. Something in him broke then, the last thread of restraint. He reached for me, not roughly, but with a desperate tenderness that stole my breath. His hands framed my face, his forehead pressing against mine. When I saw him standing near you today, his voice cracked slightly. I wanted to end him right there. Do you know what that means?
What it says about me?
I shook my head. It says you care. It says I'm dangerous, he murmured. And I don't ever want to be a danger to you. I laid my hand on his chest, feeling the frantic beat of his heart. You're not. You're the first man who's ever made me feel safe. He closed his eyes, exhaling slowly, like he'd been holding his breath for years. When he opened them again, something softer had replaced the storm. Stay with me tonight, he said, almost a whisper. No guards, no noise, no walls. Just us. I didn't answer with words. I just nodded. He took my hand, leading me upstairs, not to the guest room, not to the suite I'd been given, but to his, the same room I'd once been told was off-limits. Inside, the world felt smaller, quieter. He didn't kiss me right away. Instead, he just looked at me, as if memorizing every detail, afraid I'd vanish if he blinked. "I don't deserve this," he said. "Maybe not," I replied softly, "but I'm giving it to you anyway." When he finally kissed me, it wasn't like before, not the heat or the hunger. It was something else, something raw and real. It was a man used to control finally surrendering, and a woman used to fear finally choosing to trust. I woke before dawn, the faint glow of the city bleeding through the curtains. Dante was already awake, lying on his back beside me, staring at the ceiling. The tension in his body was impossible to miss, the way his hand rested motionless on his chest, the quiet storm brewing behind his calm expression. For a long time I said nothing. I just watched him, tracing the strong lines of his jaw with my eyes, memorizing the man who somehow became my safe place in a world built on danger. "Couldn't sleep?" I finally asked. He turned his head toward me, his dark eyes softening at the sight of me in his bed. "Didn't want to wake you." "You didn't." I smiled faintly. "You look like you're fighting ghosts." He exhaled slowly. "Maybe I am." When he didn't elaborate, I reached out, resting my palm against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "Then tell me about them." He hesitated. I saw it, the war behind his eyes. Dante was a man who built his life on silence, on secrets, on control. But this morning, lying beside me, he looked tired of all that. "There's something I should have told you," he began, voice low. "Something about the night we met." My stomach tightened. "What about it?" He sat up, resting his forearms on his knees, staring at the floor for a long moment before speaking. "Ryan didn't just happen to be at that club. He wasn't there by chance. He was looking for you because I was there." I blinked, confused. "Because of you?" He nodded. "He owed money to people under my protection. He was warned, more than once, to stay away from my operations. That night, he showed up desperate, angry, drunk. When he saw you sitting on my lap, he thought I'd taken something from him. That's why he came after you, so violently. He wanted to hurt me." His words landed like a punch. "You mean he was there because of you?" "In a way, yes. But I swear to you, Emma, I didn't know who you were until that moment." He finally looked at me, eyes filled with something like regret. "You were never part of my world. I tried to keep it that way." For a second, I didn't know what to say. Everything I thought I knew about that night, the fear, the chaos, the rescue, shifted beneath me. "So, I was just collateral damage?" I whispered. "No," he turned, grabbing my hand. "You were the only thing that wasn't collateral. The moment I saw you, everything changed. I took you because I needed to protect you. But I kept you because I couldn't let you go." There was no calculation in his voice, no trace of manipulation. Just raw honesty, and the kind of vulnerability he rarely allowed anyone to see. I wanted to be angry. I wanted to scream that he should have told me sooner. But instead, I just felt the ache of understanding. He had saved me, but maybe I had saved him, too. "Dante," I said quietly, squeezing his hand. "You could have lied. You could have kept this from me." "I almost did," he admitted. "But you deserve the truth, even if it makes you run." I leaned forward, pressing my forehead to his. "I'm not running." His eyes searched mine, disbelief flickering for a moment before giving way to relief. "You should," he said, voice barely audible. "But I'm selfish enough to be grateful that you won't." I smiled softly. "Maybe I like living dangerously." He chuckled, the tension in the air finally breaking. "Careful, cara mia. You're starting to sound like me. Maybe that's not such a bad thing." For the first time that morning, his lips curved into a real smile, small, tired, but full of something that looked a lot like hope. And in that quiet, fragile dawn, I realized something. You don't fall in love with a man like Dante because it's safe. You fall because it's inevitable. That night, the city felt different. Quieter.
Heavier.
Dante had been unusually silent through dinner, his gaze flickering to his phone every few minutes. I pretended not to notice, but I could feel the tension radiating off him like heat from a live wire. When dessert came and went untouched, I finally spoke. "You're somewhere else tonight." He looked up, caught, then forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Business," he said simply. "Dangerous business?" He hesitated for half a second, just enough to tell me the truth was worse than whatever lie he might have given me. "Stay close to Marco for the next few days," he said instead, his tone firm, final. "No late-night walks. No going out alone. Not even to the garden." A chill ran through me. "What's happening, Dante?" He reached across the table, taking my hand, a gesture meant to soothe me, though his fingers were cold. "Someone made a mistake, and now they're trying to fix it in all the wrong ways." My stomach twisted. "Does this have to do with Ryan?" His expression hardened instantly.
No.
"Ryan's finished." "Then who?" He didn't answer. The silence was worse than anything he could have said. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing faint noises, footsteps in the hall, murmurs from downstairs. The old fear I thought I'd buried started clawing its way back. At one point, I got up and walked to the window. The driveway below was lined with black SUVs. Men moved like shadows between them, silent, watchful, armed. For the first time since meeting Dante, I realized just how dangerous his world really was. When the door opened behind me, I jumped. But it was only Dante, shirtless, barefoot, looking both exhausted and lethal. "You shouldn't be up," he said softly. I couldn't sleep. I turned to face him. "You've got extra guards outside." "Why?" He ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "There's been chatter, people sniffing around my operations. Too close to home." "Too close to me," I said quietly.
His jaw tightened.
"That's why I'm handling it." "Handling it how, Dante?" I stepped closer. "You can't just—" He cut me off gently, his voice low but firm.
"Emma."
"The only reason I sleep at night is because I know you're safe. Don't take that from me." The raw desperation in his tone stopped me cold. He wasn't just angry, he was scared. Not for himself, for me. I reached out, touching his arm. "Then let me help. Don't shut me out." He looked at me like he wanted to say something he didn't dare. Instead, he pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly it almost hurt. "You already help," he murmured against my hair. "You remind me what I'm fighting for." We stayed like that for a long time, the world outside falling away. But even wrapped in his arms, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming. Something we couldn't stop. The next morning, Marco drove me into the city to distract me. But as we stopped at a red light, I saw it. A black sedan across the street, engine idling, windows tinted so dark it reflected the world back like a mirror. When we moved again, the car followed. I turned to Marco. "That car behind us. It's been there since the last corner." He didn't answer, just checked the mirror once, his hand subtly resting on the holster at his side. "Marco." "Stay calm," he said quietly. "Don't look back again." My pulse spiked. We took 2 turns, sharp, unnecessary ones, and the car stayed with us. By the time we reached Dante's gates, my hands were shaking. The guards waved us through, but I could still feel that car somewhere behind us, waiting, watching. When Dante saw my face as I stepped out of the car, he didn't ask questions. He just wrapped an arm around my waist and led me inside, barking an order to Marco in Italian that sounded like fury barely contained. Once the door closed, he cupped my face, forcing me to look at him. "Did they touch you? Follow you past the gate?" "No," I whispered. "But they were there." His eyes darkened. Then they just made the worst mistake of their lives. For the first time, I saw what the rest of the world feared, the side of Dante that didn't forgive, that didn't hesitate. And as he turned to make the call that would decide someone's fate, I realized something chilling. I had fallen in love with both versions of him, the man who protected me and the man the world should fear. The next morning, the house felt suffocatingly quiet. Even the usual hum of the city seemed muted, as if it, too, feared what was coming. I hadn't slept well. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant car horn made me flinch. Dante didn't appear for breakfast. Marco told me he had gone out for business, but his tone carried an undercurrent of urgency. I knew better. Whatever was following us hadn't disappeared. By mid-afternoon, Dante returned, but not alone. Alizio and two of his men flanked him, faces unreadable. He didn't look at me immediately, his gaze scanning the room, calculating. "Emma," he said finally, his voice low, almost a growl. "I need you inside."
Now.
I obeyed without question, moving toward the kitchen where Sophia was arranging plates for a late lunch. Something about Dante's tension made my blood run cold. He joined me moments later, closing the distance between us. "There's been a development," he said, his hand brushing mine briefly, a reminder that even in danger, I was under his protection. "What happened?" I asked, voice trembling despite my effort to stay calm. "The car you saw yesterday," he said. "It wasn't a coincidence. They're not just watching, they're planning." My heart thumped against my chest. Planning what? He didn't answer directly. Instead, he grabbed his phone and began issuing commands in Italian, his tone crisp and unyielding. Marco and Alizio acknowledged immediately, disappearing down the hall to execute orders. I felt suddenly exposed, standing in the kitchen, surrounded by luxury yet powerless against what was coming. Dante turned back to me, his dark eyes locking on mine. "You must trust me completely," he said, voice dropping to a whisper. "Do exactly as I say. Your life, my life, depends on it." "Of course," I whispered, though fear twisted my stomach into knots. He led me upstairs, into a room I had never seen him enter during our quieter moments. Maps and photos were spread across a large table, lines drawn in red ink connecting faces, places, and cars. I realized then that the danger was not abstract, it was tangible, plotted, and aimed at me. "They're setting a trap," Dante said, his jaw tightening. "They believe they can catch us off guard. They're wrong." I wanted to speak, to protest, but no words came. I was frozen, my gaze drawn to the meticulous planning, the cold efficiency in every detail. "Emma," Dante said softly, resting a hand on my cheek, grounding me. "You are not a pawn. You are mine, and I will not allow anyone to hurt you." I swallowed, nodding, but a part of me couldn't shake the terror curling in my chest. "What do we do?" He leaned closer, voice a low rumble. "We play their game, on my terms." The next hours were a blur of preparation. Marco drove us to multiple locations, scouting, positioning, ensuring that no shadow of threat could touch us. Every step Dante took was deliberate, every movement calculated to keep me safe, while luring the enemy into a false sense of confidence. By the time we returned home, the sun was dipping below the horizon, casting the city in shades of blood red and gold. Dante finally allowed himself to relax, but only slightly. His hand lingered on my lower back, the protective heat of him reminding me that no matter what, he was always one step ahead. As we entered the house, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "We know where she is." I froze, heart hammering. Dante's expression went cold. He read the message, crushed the phone in his hand, and for the first time, I saw something primal flicker in his gaze, a predator ready to strike. "They want a reaction," he said quietly, brushing a strand of hair from my face. "They will get one, but not the one they expect." He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could feel the steady power of him radiating through me. Stay close. Do not leave this house. Do not speak to anyone. Not even a guard. Do you understand? Yes, I whispered, my voice trembling, but I meant it. I had no choice. My life, my future, my heart, all depended on him. That night, we stayed close, Dante's presence both shield and sword. And in the darkness, as shadows crept along the walls, I realized one terrifying truth. My world had changed forever. I was no longer just escaping danger. I was living in it, with the man who loved me, protected me, and could destroy anyone who threatened me. The night stretched on, heavy with tension. I stayed close to Dante, my body pressed against his as he moved through the house with the ease of a predator, scanning every shadow, every sound. The air itself seemed charged, waiting for the storm to strike. Then it came. A subtle shift in the hallway outside, a shadow that didn't belong. Dante stiffened instantly, his hand gripping my wrist like iron. Emma, he whispered, stay here. Don't move. Don't speak. I nodded, heart hammering so violently I thought it might escape my chest. I watched, breath held, as Dante disappeared from sight, moving toward the threat with a predator's silence. Minutes passed, stretched and taut, each second a knife. Then a muffled sound, a scuffle, a grunt. My stomach churned, panic clawing at me, but I reminded myself I was safe. Dante would not let anything happen to me. When he returned, his suit disheveled, a faint cut across his cheek, my breath caught. His dark eyes scanned me, ensuring I hadn't moved. Are you unharmed? He demanded, voice low but sharp. Yes, I managed, trembling. My hands shook as I reached for him, needing the anchor of his presence. Dante nodded, almost imperceptibly, before disappearing again into the shadows. I could hear the muffled voices now, threats shouted in a language I didn't fully understand, then sudden silence. My pulse raced, my chest tight with fear and anticipation. When Dante finally returned, the intruders were gone. Not a trace remained. Only the faint echo of danger that had brushed against us. He exhaled slowly, closing the distance between us. They learned a valuable lesson tonight, he murmured, brushing my hair back from my face, fingers lingering against my cheek. Never underestimate who I protect, or what I am capable of. I clung to him, relief and exhilaration washing through me. I thought. I couldn't finish the sentence, the words lost in the storm of emotions swirling inside me. You thought you were vulnerable, he said softly, voice gentle now, but the underlying authority still undeniable. You're not. Not with me. I pressed myself against him, feeling the steady power of his body, the certainty that nothing could harm me while he was near. For the first time, I understood the depth of what it meant to be protected, not just physically, but wholly, completely. Emma, Dante said, his voice low and intimate, I cannot promise the world will be without danger. But I promise you this. Whatever comes, I will face it first. Always. And you will never face it alone. I whispered his name, tears of relief and gratitude sliding down my cheeks. I trust you completely. He pulled me close, holding me as if the world itself might collapse around us, but within the circle of his arms, there was safety. There was home. There was love. The night faded into early dawn, the adrenaline ebbing, replaced by a quiet intimacy. We remained entwined, Dante's lips brushing my hair, his hands tracing patterns of reassurance along my back. No words were necessary. We had survived the storm together, stronger for it. And in that moment, I realized that danger could exist outside the walls of this house, in the shadows of the city. But with Dante, I was untouchable, and the love that had grown between us, fierce, consuming, undeniable, was worth every risk, every heartbeat spent in fear, every choice that had led me into his world. The city was quiet that morning, the soft glow of dawn spilling across the skyline, but inside Dante's home, the world felt infinitely larger, infinitely safer. I woke wrapped in the warmth of his arms, his heartbeat steady beneath my ear. For the first time in months, I breathed without fear, without hesitation. Dante stirred, eyes opening to meet mine, dark pools of tenderness and desire. "Good morning," he whispered, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. His fingers lingered, tracing the curve of my cheek, as if committing it to memory. "Morning," I replied, my voice soft, almost shy. The intimacy of our shared night pressed around us like a promise. "You slept well?" he asked, a teasing note beneath his usual seriousness. "I did," I admitted, stretching against him. "For the first time in a long time, I feel at home." Dante's lips curved into that rare, genuine smile that could melt steel. "Good," he said simply. "Because home isn't a place, Emma. It's a feeling. And this us that's real." I nestled closer, inhaling the scent of him, solid and grounding. "It feels impossible," I whispered. "I ran from fear, from danger. And somehow, I've ended up here with you." "You didn't end up here," he corrected softly, brushing a thumb over my lips. "You chose this.
You chose me.
Every step, every heartbeat, every risky decision, it led us here. To this moment." The weight of his words pressed over me, and I realized how completely my life had shifted. From hiding in motels, terrified of Ryan's threats, to standing hand in hand with Dante, a man who is both dangerous and devoted, powerful yet gentle. My past felt like a distant shadow. "Emma," Dante said, his voice suddenly serious, "I want you to understand something. Being with me, it's not just romance. It's commitment. It's a life entwined. My world has rules, dangers, choices. And you've agreed to navigate it with me." "I do," I said firmly, meeting his gaze without hesitation. "All of it. The danger, the luxury, the unpredictability. I choose you. Every day, every moment." He smiled, lifting me onto the bed, gathering me into his arms once more. "Good," he murmured against my hair. "Because I choose you too. Not for protection. Not for arrangement.
For you.
Only you." For a long while, we stayed there, wrapped in each other, the silence filled with something deeper than words, trust, love, and a shared understanding that whatever came next, we faced it together. Later, dressed and ready, we stepped out into the city, hand in hand, no longer predator and prey, no longer protector and protected, but partners. Eyes turned, whispers followed, but we were untouchable. Our bond was visible, undeniable. And for the first time, I felt a power I hadn't known I possessed, not from wealth, not from status, but from love, trust, and the courage to choose it. Dante led me to his car, pressing a gentle kiss to my temple. "Where we go from here," he said, "is up to us. But know this, I will always protect you, cherish you, and love you. Always." I smiled, leaning against him. "I know. And I will love you, always. No matter what comes." As the city stretched before us, alive and endless, I realized that sometimes salvation comes in unexpected forms. Sometimes love grows in shadows, stronger for the dangers it overcomes. And sometimes choosing the most dangerous man in the world turns out to be the safest, most liberating choice of all. For the first time, I wasn't running. I wasn't hiding. I was home, with Dante. And that was more than I had ever dared to
Dream.